Hello and welcome to episode 40 of Establish the Collection. I am your host, Cody Main, joined as always by a slightly more tan version of Gary Hartman. Gary, how's it going, buddy? Fresh from a trip to Phoenix, right?
Yeah, to Phoenix. Had an awesome time in Phoenix. But Cody Main, we'll talk about my trip in a second. Want big congratulations to you, my friend. Now a full-time employee of Establish the Run, well-deserved. Director of niche content, niche sports. Do I have the title correct?
You nailed it, which
Beautiful.
is really bad on ETR's part because it just opened us up to so much, so much shit on Twitter because everyone's like, when darts, when highlight
esports. Yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, all jokes aside, really, really pumped for you. And, we've gotten to know each other over the last year or so and become good friends. And I know you've been a bit burnt out from the normal grind of your 9 to 5. And obviously you have a lot going on in your personal life, and no one crushes the showdown, preseason streets like you did. And I know how much time and effort you put into it. So for you to be able to expand upon that and really step into what you love, man, I'm really pumped for you. Also, your hair looks great.
Appreciate that, buddy. Yeah, fresh cut for the new job. We had to look good for the first episode of Establish the Collection after getting the new job, so we had to make sure we were nice and tight. I think it looks okay.
It looks awesome.
No, I appreciate the kind words. We're gonna keep it obviously very niche. In my role, we are not going to try and step on any toes on the main slate. We're not going to try and step on any NBA toes. We're going to keep to what we know, which basically means we're going to be covering USFL, baby. We got good news out of the USFL. We are getting USFL DFS starting April 16th from DraftKings. So great news. If you guys are interested and, have enjoyed the NFL Showdown content, have enjoyed the preseason content from us in the past, we will hopefully be covering the USFL with the same amount of grinding our cocks off, for lack of a better term, if you will. So, it's fun to get started. It's fun to get started with something as niche and as fun as the USFL. So I'm excited to get going, man.
Yeah, and I can't wait to hop in right alongside you there with the USFL streets. Going to be a lot of fun. And I saw a couple of questions on Twitter amongst all your congratulations about this show, and if anything would be changing. And no, if anything, we've spoken a little bit about it. We're hopefully we'll have more time to even dedicate to it now. So expect more ETC, more Establish the Collection, more fun from your two best looking card. You know what? I'm going to say this definitively. I'm putting it down on the table right now. We are the best looking card collecting collectibles podcast in the world, on the interwebs. No two gentlemen are better looking than us that do what we do. Yeah, and those are fighting words for all the other card podcasts out there, but it's true. Sorry to shame everybody else out there.
You just opened up Pandora's box, and I'm not ready. I am not ready for all that smoke, man. we got a few comments after we had hoard ourselves out on YouTube and tried to get all the comments and likes and subscriptions and what have yous on YouTube. Someone said we look like twins, and I took that as a compliment because Gary, I find you a very good looking young man.
And me, you, Cody, and me, you. I guess we should end it there before this gets too rowdy. But I also should say, I meant to say I was going to do it soon. We're in the
let's go.
The Bored Ape Rally.
Let's go.
That I've had in my possession for a little bit and I forgot about. So yeah, this is I don't remember which one this is, but he's a nice guy. I like this one. He's got some cool colors.
The Bored Ape on Rally with which you just received your free dividends.
I got some dividends. Yeah.
Amazing stuff. Like what an investment. You're just getting dividends from buying an ape JPEG. I love it.
I knew this hat would pay for itself. Anyway.
All right. We've already gone off the rails 3 minutes in somehow, but I guess that's what happens when we're off for a week and you were in Phoenix. Hopefully things went well. I'm not going to spend too much time on your trip to Phoenix, but I'm going to live vicariously through you because with 3 kids, I don't have time to get out of the house very much.
Understood.
So I hope the trip to Phoenix was great.
It was great.
In keeping with the theme, with the new job title, with the niche sports, we're going to keep it niche, which we were just talking off air that it's probably not even niche anymore with as popular as it has become. But F1, once again, stole the weekend, and I think you completely nailed your predictions from last episode 39, where we talked F1 in full detail. Why don't you take it off from what happened last week before we get into the card stuff? Take the audience through what we saw on the opening weekend of F1 last week.
Yeah, we talked at length about it, by why last or 2 weeks ago when we spoke on the pod, why it was the perfect time to jump in to F1. And it wasn't just because Drive to Survive season 4 came back, which was a lot of fun, like it usually is, but because the season was starting back up, and it was a season with a ton of anticipation, probably more than ever before, with what many people expected to be new competition, more heavy competition, not just a battle between Mercedes and Red Bull, but perhaps other constructors and teams as well. And the first race certainly bore that out. Dominated the Twitterverse on Sunday morning, even Saturday morning. I was in Phoenix I took the red eye back Saturday night. So I got up 7:30 a.m. Phoenix time to watch qualifying on Saturday, landed at 6 a.m. on Eastern time Sunday. Built up all my F1 DFS lineups, new fun sport for DFS Sunday morning. Stayed up on like 2 hours of sleep on the plane to watch the F1 race Sunday. So it's back, taking priority, and I'm so happy to have something that is dominating my Sundays again. And I think so is an estimated 73 million other new American F1 fans. I think was the estimated thing. Yeah, let me find the Twitter thread that I just had retweeted from somebody that analyzes storytelling, I believe, and basically did a whole thread on how Drive to Survive has grown the sport. But I believe, it was an estimated 73 million new American fans over the last year, year and a half since the pandemic. Yeah.
It is so amazing because what felt so niche last year when you got into box breaks and we had first Topps Chrome product for F1, it did feel like such an incredibly niche sport. Like no one was talking about F1. Drive to Survive had been out for a few seasons at that point already, but it just didn't feel like anyone was talking about it. And now it's all anyone can talk about. Your favorite podcast hosts, your favorite DFS content creators, everyone is now talking about F1 domestically. So take us through what happened in week one. It was an interesting week, especially with DFS lineups.
And just to follow up there, Nathan Baugh 27 on Twitter, he has a podcast that analyzes storytelling and its impact. So the business of storytelling. So he did a whole thing on Drive to Survive, and the F1 has come out with numbers that they estimate they earned 73 million new fans in 2021. So American, mostly American fans. So anyway, I am just one of a mere 73 million, but I like to say that I've been on this now for about a year, and it's been something that's been a total treat for me. And this past weekend was no different. So obviously, we talked about the recap of last season, what happened with Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton and the Mercedes and Red Bull and the controversy surrounding that. So we head into a new season and a lot of buzz about will it be Lewis Hamilton's year? Will it be Max Verstappen's year? Will it be Red Bull? Will it be Mercedes? I don't know. Once we got towards Sunday, I think everyone had a little bit of a different tune, that it might not be any of their year, and the golden age of Scuderia Ferrari is back and ready to play. And that is because they had spent all of their second half of last year putting resources and time into 2022's car. There had been a lot of buzz that was coming, and it was going to be coming, hot and heavy and strong. And everything that we've seen so far this year in testing and qualifying, and now in the first race in which Charles Leclerc, their hot young 24-year-old driver, has been there for a couple of years, widely considered one of the top 5 to 7 drivers on the grid, and a real young phenom, like there are so many others of this sport, came out, had pole position, meaning he started in first place to start the race on Sunday, and did go ahead and win the race in a really, really exciting race where he had a big battle with Max Verstappen, going back and forth for much of it. And due to some issues that the Red Bull did end up having, despite being a very fast car, both cars broke down around the last lap of the race, and Ferrari came in with a 1-2, which means what it sounds like. Both their drivers finished first and second, really setting up both the target on their backs and kind of putting themselves at the head of the pack for this season. So a really exciting race. Ferrari out in front. Lewis Hamilton found himself on a podium due to those Red Bull issues. So Mercedes seems to be about the third fastest team right now. Now, we'll see how this advances. We have another race this weekend, but take all this stuff with a grain of salt, because yes, Ferrari, I think, is going to be a player and is here to stay for this season. But all teams the first time these cars got out on a track was 2 weeks ago, right? For testings 2.5 weeks ago. So these cars are going to be completely being advanced and tuned and worked on as the season goes on. We don't really know where it's going to settle in as far as who has the most pace. What I do know is Ferrari came out, or a statement came out through Ferrari today that they had put their engine on conservative mode this past weekend just to kind of test it out. So it's just rumors that they aren't even at full pace right now. So Ferrari is, pretty clearly ahead of pack. What Ferrari means to the sport is a big one, kind of similar to the Lakers, the Yankees, the Cowboys. They are the chalk, if you will, front runner, most exciting team with the most storied history. But at the same time, what do all those teams have when they're good? It's great for the sport. So just another way for F1 to keep growing is Ferrari looks to be back and might be the front runner for 2022.
I sit down on the couch. I think it's 10 a.m. local time. The 1-year-old and the 4-year-old have been up for a few hours at this point. It's Sunday morning. I'm trying to get my wife into this. I turn on the broadcast and I'm thinking, she's going to love this, right? The kids are going to love this. My 4-year-old son's going to love the fast cars, the action, right? And then as soon as it's lights out and the cars are going, this guy with a thick accent is way too amped for a Sunday morning. And my wife's like, turn this off, turn it off. I don't want to listen to it anymore. So I was enjoying this, but my wife, not so much. So she's going to take some convincing because there was
Welcome to Bahrain for the first race of the 2022 Formula One season. They do a great job, those announcers.
She's just, nothing's happened yet. Why is he screaming already? But it was an exciting race. A lot of back and forth action between Leclerc and Verstappen. I think the biggest impact for this podcast, obviously, is what does this mean for card prices? Does this mean anything for 2020 product going back? And then we should talk about your just magnificent call on last week's episode, 2 weeks ago now at this point, where you were picking up boxes at your local hobby shop for $600, Topps Chrome, that are now retailing at $1,000, $1,100, $1,200 online. So what does this mean? What does week one, what does opening weekend mean for hobby prices moving forward? Should we take anything away from one race?
Yeah, I mean, I loved seeing that 73 million new fan number because at least a couple of those have to be card collectors. And what I do know is I think it's the hottest sport for card collecting right now, even amongst NBA being ramping up for preseason, even amongst MLB being back and ready to go and people be excited about, even amongst one of the most crazy, probably the craziest NFL offseason of my lifetime. Amongst all of that, I think F1 is dominating card sales, card hype, and nothing is proven more than that. I said within 2 weeks, I expected the box prices to jump from $600 to $1,000. It happened in like 5 days. And now you see them settling in around $1,100, $1,200 in most places. Just crazy, man. If I had known that it was going to go that quickly, I would have went around every hobby shop I could in the tri-state area and bought up as many as I could. Was able to get my hands on a bunch at $600 or whatever. Feel good about that. But man, crazy stuff. And it's, second year of a really, really, really exciting product. We're also seeing it reflected even more in 2020. Crops somehow is up even more. I saw the regular Chrome boxes are going for $4 grand now, which is like what used to be a $4 grand, which used to be what the Sapphire was going for. Those must be going for, $4 or $5 or whatever it may be. But I'm not surprised because, it's another great looking product, the Chrome product. It's a second year of, there's only so many Lewis Hamilton autographs that were in the first year. There's only so many Max Verstappen autographs. There's only so many of their golds and reds and oranges and stuff like that. If you get a third year Mike Trout Superfractor 1 of 1, it's still going to fetch you close to six figures, right. six figures if it pays say 10. So that's what we're dealing with just on those drivers. And then you're not to mention that Mick Schumacher is a really big deal rookie. He is the flagship rookie of this class. And Haas, the team that he drove for, has been a complete joke for a couple of years. Put all of their resources and money, and Watch Drive to Survive to get a little bit of insight of where that money may have come from last year. And I don't want to get into politics on this show, but all their resources and money into this year's car, and it looks damn good. And because of those political reasons, they ended up letting go one of their Russian drivers and brought in who is seemingly become the driver of the people, Kevin Magnussen. Mm-hmm. Is back and it was somebody that everyone always enjoyed as a driver that they used to have prior to last year, and he comes in fifth or sixth, I guess sixth. I think he top 6, right? Yeah. In the race this weekend. So not only is Mick Schumacher a rookie in this product, he's now racing on a team that might be somewhat competitive in the midfield. That I think that's a big deal for his prices. And again, also the fact that it just came out at the same time as Drive to Survive, and we got to know Mick Schumacher, we got to know the other rookie Yuki Tsunoda. So, it has decent rookies, a great product, and the demand is through the roof. And what I'm also realizing is I don't think Topps produced as much as I thought they would. It doesn't seem like even really high end breakers and eBay stores and all this stuff and hobby shops have gotten that many cases of this stuff. And for that reason, and all the hype, the stuff doubled within a week. And it's really insane. It's really insane. And I anticipated it. Yes, this fast. I didn't anticipate it this fast.
I know you can tell stories of your own, but I had a similar situation on a much lower scale. I went in on, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, maybe not even 2 weeks ago now. And I texted you and I said, hey, my local hobby shop has this for $6.50. And I think he had 5 or 6 boxes on the shelf. And then he had a couple of the hobby light boxes. Yep. Which at the time we were going for like $275, which have now jumped up to like $500, which is it's just madness, right? So I texted you, I said, hey, are you still in at $650 on the hobby boxes? And you said, absolutely, you can't guarantee it, obviously, but I think this is going to be, could be $1,000 product in a couple of weeks. So I picked up a couple boxes. I haven't ripped them yet. I'm waiting for the right moment to either rip these or wait for the show.
It's already a great investment for you. I mean, you've already made a couple $100, on those boxes. So
I guess my question now is, maybe you weren't someone who was catching stale prices at your local hobby shop. Maybe you weren't somebody who got in at $600, $650, $700, and now they're $1,000, $1,100, $1,200, and it's impossible to find these. I completely agree with your sentiment that these weren't overprinted, which we feared they might be coming into year 2 after the demand of last year. Are we in at box prices of $1,100, $1,200? What's the best way to get exposure to this product? Is it break rooms? Is it buying singles? Is it still buying boxes for $1,100? What's the right move at this point?
It's a really, really good question. And I went into my local hobby shop yesterday. I walked down there and $1,105 on the shelf. I went into a break room today, $1,185 if I wanted a personal box. So really nuts. What I would say is, I think at the price they're at right now, until we see more and more of like the super high end Lewis Hamilton and Verstappen start to hit the market, I think it has room. I think that they end up at like around $1,500 for most of the season would be my guess. It's just a gut, an estimate. I think that stuff is still being ripped at a decently solid pace at these higher numbers, though, even in break rooms. At this higher number, so it will slow down a little bit, but I think it has some room. So if it's in your budget, I don't hate still spending at this price. Obviously, you can't even kick yourself that long. Dude, these were on the shelf for 3-4 days at $600, $700. The second that websites, that hobby stores, that eBay, that breakers, the second they sold out of their first initial wave of this stuff, they bumped right up. So don't feel too bad if you missed out on that original run. If it's still in your budget, I'm okay with it at this price. You still do have a low floor here, though. Like, you're going to get a couple refractors per box, a couple numbered cards per box. There's like 2 or 3 autos per case. It's 12 cases in a box. You have like a 1 in 4 box chance of hitting an auto. So, there is some downside here, and it's not a cheap number to come in at. So I completely understand if that's out of your budget. If it is out of your budget, a couple options if you want to get involved. I think the cheapest and the best entry point would just be singles. Go onto eBay. Just hawk. Monitor these things like a hawk. I have one player that you might, driver. I'm always going to do that. One driver that you might have your eye on. Maybe you like Pierre Gasly, who I liked him a lot this past weekend because he does well at this track and the car looked solid in qualifying. But he had his car ended up on fire in the middle of the race, overheated. Yeah, so right. Didn't fit. I saw that. So he's sitting down with no points right now. Like do what we've always talked about the show. Identify drivers that maybe aren't being talked about as much as Charles Leclerc or Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, and go on eBay and try to scoop some of that stuff up. I think that's probably your best option, number one. What I actually did for the first time yesterday, in as long as I've been, I haven't done this since I first started getting into cards. This is the first breaks I ever did were eBay breaks. I had not done eBay breaks in forever, but I'm having a lot of trouble finding breaks, like legit breaks and break rooms of this stuff, of breakers that I have accounts with and that I trust and stuff. I'm just not seeing it. It's really not out there very much on websites and stuff. So, for that reason, I went on, saw if there was any eBay breaks, found a guy that was very legit, had like 100,000 breaks and whatever, watched him his videos, he uses gloves. So I went in and they did a player break. So you could bid on every single player of a full case. So if I bid for Lewis Hamilton, I would get every single card that comes out of a 12 box case. So instead of going out and trying to buy, 5 boxes for $5,000, you can win Lewis Hamilton for $3,000 or $4,000 and get every card of his that comes out of a case. That case broke tonight, and a Lewis Hamilton auto out of 74 refractor came out. Right,
Let's go.
Boom. I mean,
not my card.
Dang it!
But
I did not penny up for Lewis Hamilton, but I'm just saying,
right.
I did actually for Yuki Tsunoda. I don't want to say what I spent on it, but I identified him to be coming in around half the price of Mick Schumacher for what he sold for. So I went for the second best rookie in the class. He has a Japanese market. We've spoken about this before. I identified it as a possibly undervalued asset. Hit a couple decent cards. Fine with the investment. But what I'm saying is, I think that's one option for you to spend half the price of $1,000 if you want to go after a mid-tier driver like Vettel or whatever. Leclerc might go for $800, whatever. So you're spending under a box price to get one driver, but in 12 boxes. So I think that is a strong way to do it. I think player breaks of this stuff where you can find them is probably the way to do it. Driver breaks. So, that's one other option. The other is, find some break room, see if, the shout out to Blowout I talked about where I hit my max, my Lewis Hamilton card last year. He's always done a great job with having F1 stuff in stock, but it's not cheap. It's the same as anyone else. He's selling them for close to $1,200 today. But I did a couple of breaks today where I split with 9 other people. We did a serial number break. So, we all got in at per box. So still it's one box at a time, but you get in like $120 per spot. So there are ways that are a little higher risk to get in. I really like the eBay player breaks for as long as those exist for a full case. I'm not interested for a 2-box, a 3-box, a 4-box. You don't know where those were. You don't know if it's been manipulated at all. But if it's a full 12-box case, you're going to see the case ripped open on screen. I think that's an interesting way to get in. Not going to be cheap still, not going to be cheap, but you're going to have exposure to a lot more of one specific player with a lot higher odds of hitting something big because you're out of a full case. So there are options for you, but I am okay with it at the price still. I am.
Could not agree more with the player break. This is something that I utilize to perfection with the Hamzat, which we'll talk about here in a second with the UFC side. That's the player break was, I knew that all I wanted was Hamzat. I wasn't chasing anybody else from that 2021 UFC debut product. I was chasing Hamzat, right? And you either couldn't find the right cards on eBay at the time in the singles that were proper quality or what you were looking for, the right serial numbers, whatever the case may have been. So you could get in at a little bit lower price and I was doing quarter case. So maybe there's a little bit different. There's like 3 boxes, 4 boxes per break. So a little bit different situation, a little bit cheaper price. But when I was getting into Hamzat heavily, that's the way I was doing it. You could find yourself at a little bit lower price point than chasing some of these singles with still similar upside, and was able to build up a nice collection that way. So could not agree more in getting involved that way. The one thing that I didn't know when I went into my hobby shop was for these Formula One boxes that there is the regular hobby box and then there's the hobby box light.
Yep.
So when I purchased my first box of just the regular hobby, I came back on, I think I went in on a Tuesday and came back on a Friday thinking, I'll be able to pick up a couple more boxes when I knew that the prices had already went up quite a bit. So I went in there. He looked at me like I was crazy, expecting boxes to still be on the shelves after they had just went nuts over the last couple of days. But I asked him if he had any feedback from people that were ripping the product yet. And he said that the light boxes were doing really well for what they cost.
Yep.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but is that something that anecdotally that you've noticed as well, that the light boxes might be doing a little bit better than the auto boxes at current cost?
Yeah. So I went back also in that same thing yesterday and I bought a light box at like $450. I know it's still $200 more than it was, but I was like, I want to get, I have the F1 itch. I don't want to spend $1,100 in this hobby shop right now, but I do know that, you could still hit all the colors. You can still hit the refractors. They have these Ray Wave that are exclusive to, that are like black and white with this cool refractor.
That's a sweet card.
Shine. So they have these. So I had a Leclerc of this, of his regular base of that. And I just put that on eBay today. So I'll talk about some selling strategy in a minute, if you are doing that route as well. But I'm totally okay with it. The only thing you're not going to get in there is autographs. So it's obviously less cards, less price, but you have an opportunity for 4 of those Ray Wave refractors per box. Those are pretty cool. And you can only get those in the light boxes. You cannot get them in the hobby boxes. And then you also still have your same shots. I mean, less cards, so not as high probability, but same shots of, so your colored checkerboard parallels, and your purple, green, red, orange, gold stuff. So I totally am good with the light boxes. I think it's great that they gave that as an option. Usually I don't love when they break up, like Bowman, they do this sometimes, or Topps, they break up the light in the hobby. And, I just feel like maybe my hit odds are up. But when we kind of are figuring out that maybe they didn't produce as much of this stuff as we thought, and the price is hiked so quickly, I do like it for this particular product. Happy that it exists.
All right, talk to the people about selling strategy. Let's get into it, because if you were listening to Gary last week, you may have went out and purchased a few boxes. You may have went out and purchased a few singles. Maybe you're holding some product as of right now. How should we be thinking through selling this stuff now that the racing calendar is underway, should we be holding for a while? Is there an opportunity now to sell as the hype is heating up? What are the strategies that you are implementing right now?
Yeah, I think there's a real opportunity to sell right now with into hype. Obviously, I think it stands for, we've talked about this on the pod too before, like it stands true for a lot of products that you're going to get your highest value when the product is new, despite the fact that the most inventory might be out on the marketplace, because there's also the most eyes on it and the most hype around it. I think I'm taking a similar approach to my same investment thesis is that I have on other sports, like guys that I believe in long term. I want to make sure I'm exposed to them, but I also want to take advantage of hype, and hype deserves auctions. And I did that for Charles Leclerc today. I put up like 7 or 8 Leclerc cards, both from 2020 tops and 2021 that I've been able to hit. And, we talk about Leclerc, we just referenced him. He is the probably alpha driver on Ferrari, probably would be favorite or co-favorite to be driver champion right now, maybe with Verstappen for the season or Lewis. So, because of that, and because he just won this race in such, pretty dominating fashion, and he's expected to, perform well moving forward here. I think you have windows within the next couple of weeks to sell somebody like him or his teammate Sainz or any kind of Ferrari stuff while they're dominating, while their fans are coming back out of the woodwork, while they're growing new fans. Because listen, like as I mentioned before with the cars, like I think right now is a very strong time to sell him, despite the fact that he might be the favorite, because Red Bull and Mercedes are only going to get better. And I think even teams like McLaren, they just have braking issues right now and a couple other things, and they're really at the back of the grid. But I don't think at the end of the day, as we get further into the season, they're going to be that far behind. So I think, and Haas is strong, and there's all these teams that who knows what kind of tweaks they can make to their car. The regulation rules that they made for 2022 were to do what we're seeing right now, to make the sport much more competitive. It's clearly working. And I think these teams have a while to go until they figure out their peak performance out of a car. So while Ferrari is that peak performer, I think you should be selling some of it. Now, I do believe in Leclerc long term, and I think Ferrari's probably here to stay as back at the upper echelon of the Ferrari grid. I'm not saying let's sell all of our stuff, but I think especially if you have any kind of numbered or refractor stuff that you'd be okay with. Like I put up a 2020 Sapphire variation card. Those are pretty short printed. I think it is a pretty solid time. While he is the probably the most hyped driver right now. I had up some Leclerc sales before, and I think I closed the page, but I'll try to get some more back up. But I know his stuff's been hot and getting a ton of views, watchers, bids kind of every day since the race, and I would expect that to continue unless somehow he shits the bed or Ferrari shits the bed over the next couple of races, which I would not expect to happen.
Yeah, and he won last week. He's a plus 125 favorite for the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix this week, so it seems like he's in good line to at least podium this week, assuming things go well. Assuming that this Leclerc and Verstappen battle continue to go back and forth over the next couple of weeks, this seems like a great time to sell somebody like Charles Leclerc and just take advantage of the hype, like you mentioned. I would be curious if you've got some sales pulled up as well, just to look at a difference between 2020 and 2021 as well, but also see how things are performing initially out of the gate as well now that the season is open.
Yep. So a PSA 10 of his Sapphire variation, so the one I put up raw today, went for about $1,100 today. That's a pretty strong price for any kind of it's not the numbered, it's his base Sapphire, but a variation. So it's the shorter printed, but just the base. So it's not not the out of 70 or the 99 or whatever. So going for almost $1,100 is a strong price. Seeing just regular refractors, not his print card, like not his portrait card, which is like considered the real, like the true, card out of 2021. Just like a refractor of him in the car, or like him standing on the sideline, going for $10 raw. Like that's silly. Those should be like $2-3 cards. So you're seeing like 2x, 3x on that kind of stuff. And then just a raw of his 2021 refractor of the portrait card. So the card number 11 this year, I saw $115 sale today. So that's a lot for a raw card. $230 sale for his Sapphire base non-variation raw last year. So that means I expect my one that I put up today to go for at least $350 for raw.
Wow.
So so we're talking big numbers for, I could try to find some stuff from a couple of weeks ago. Obviously there's been a ton of sales over the last couple of days. So I'll keep scrolling and try to find some stuff from a couple of weeks ago just to compare. But it's up big. It's up big.
Has he slid in as the number 3 driver especially from that 2020 class, but is he now the number 3 most collectible driver out of these products behind Verstappen and Lewis, or is there somebody else?
I would put him I would put him 5 only because Lando and George were rookies, were true rookies, and they're still very exciting young drivers. But it's close. Like if you wanted to tell me it was a 3A, 3B, 3C thing, I wouldn't necessarily argue with you. I would probably put a 3A, 3B between Lando and George, and then a 4 for Leclerc. Like I wouldn't even call it like a 3, 4, 5 type of thing. Like it's all bunched up there, in my opinion. Leclerc. So go back to March 8th as opposed to March 22nd. His PSA 10 of that Sapphire went for about $500. So this is the regular base. So it went for only it went for 2x of what his raw went for today. I would imagine this card with the variation going for $1,100 would be about an $800, $900 card today. So definitely up big. Yeah, they're going for around 550 consistent. Okay, here we go. So the 9 of the variation card went for $438. The 10 went for $1,100 today. So for the 9 went for $438, what the 10 would have went for like $800. So it's up like $300-$400. It's not insignificant. So
awesome stuff. Great time to take advantage of the hype of the season starting, Drive to Survive kicking off. I think the DFS impact should not go overstated. Huge for the domestic audience. So many people, so many touts, so many people that you follow for other DFS sports. We're talking about F1 on Saturday and Sunday. So I think very important that we have DFS available now. Anything that we missed on F1 before we transition to another niche sport?
No, just keep your eye on Mercedes and Red Bull. Like it's going to be really interesting to see how these cars progress. I think Red Bull does have some real issues with that car from a reliability standpoint, from the ability to last a whole race, which is going to be really interesting. Max Verstappen is defending his title. We expect Red Bull to be at the top of the grid. I think they do have the pace and the speed to be there. The question is, do they have the reliability to be there for an entire race, and can they get it together? Because it can get late quick for them to compete for a championship. They did not end up with any points this last week. If that does happen and they somehow fall out of contention, I would be in on buying Max Verstappen. So just keep an eye on things like that. I think are interesting. I think Lewis and George and Mercedes are going to get there quicker than people thought maybe they would. They finished in third and fifth or whatever it was this past week. So they are third and fourth, I think, right? Yeah, it was Lewis third, George fourth. So that took two retired from Red Bull for that to happen. But hey, it happened nonetheless. And I would definitely be watching Saudi Arabia this Sunday. Should be another really, really fun one. I'm so pumped, man. And if you're in we're very pro gambling here. If you're in a legal gambling state, check out my Twitter. I think I'm going to start tweeting out some gambling stuff I like with F1 because I've had some real success, not only in week 1, but a lot, down the stretch last year. Had a lot of fun gambling on F1. So it's a fun one.
We've talked plenty on this show about me driving to Iowa to place legal sports wagers. So please, if there's any bets that you have, I would love to load up the kids in the minivan and drive to Iowa to play some bets.
What's Nebraska doing? We have any progress there? When are we getting into Nebraska?
No. So real quick before we get into the next subject here, Tom Osborne, one of the greatest representatives of the state of Nebraska,
we love Tom.
Hall of Fame college football coach, one of the greatest football coaches of all time, is fully opposed to gambling and is somehow, some way, still a figurehead in this state and still probably has the most pull in this state. So as long as he is alive and kicking, buddy, I hate to break it to you, but Nebraska is not going to get legal gambling.
This is what are we going to do? I was going to come visit you, but now I have to do it not during football season or something.
So here we are. The one thing that I will drive to Iowa for as of right now is I will drive to Iowa to place legal sports bets on the UFC, which is totally fitting for what we're about to get into next.
Yes.
But every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, sometimes late in the week when I'm already getting bad numbers, I'll just drive just to have some action on the fights because I absolutely love it. But I'll take the 45, 50-minute drive to Iowa to get some action down because I can't get enough of the UFC. So hopefully someday I'll be able to just do it from the comfort of my own couch. But as it stands, we're driving to Iowa,
for a couple hours too. So.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right. But anyway,
like Tom Brady just realized that that's what he needed. Sometimes
it's necessary, especially when you've got 3 of them.
I digress. Yeah, let's talk about UFC, man, because it's an exciting time. And like we talked about with F1 2 weeks ago, UFC, perfect time to talk some UFC because we got the new product coming out this week.
It is a perfect time. Not quite the perfect storm that we had last week or 2 weeks ago in F1 with Drive to Survive and now DFS and the season starting up, but it is a similar situation. We do have product coming out for what is Panini's sophomore season, their second edition of their UFC product. And I think the initial launch went really well. UFC Prizm, first off the line boxes, went at Dutch auction on March 17th, ended up going around $1,065, which seemed like a pretty fair price. I unfortunately did not get in at that price, but first off the line boxes are going to carry some bangers in them as well. So we will have regular hobby boxes coming out in a couple of days, and those are already reselling on eBay right now for $1,000 at pre-sale. So I think this is going to end up being a really good product, but I think it's a great time to continue talking about UFC because we have some exciting young names in the sport. And if you guys were paying attention last year when Gary was getting into F1, I was getting into the UFC, and that ended up kind of being the niche sport that I was focusing on. And I was really hammering home the idea of investing in a guy like Khamzat Chimaev, who has taken over social media, has taken over the UFC, and is probably the biggest prospect that we've seen in a long time.
You nailed your call there, man. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, and it feels great to be in the position that we're in. If you guys were tailing any of the Khamzat stuff earlier from last year, we were coming off a really, really difficult bout of COVID, and he had an extremely exciting start to his career. And then things seemed to go off the rails. He was considering retirement, was really struggling with health, and the COVID stuff was really getting to him. We were hammering home the idea of investing in somebody like Khamzat before his fight with Li Jinglang, which happened last October now, and he hasn't fought since then. And prices continue to go up. Like if you're trying to get your hands on this product at this time, it is absolutely impossible. So I think we're in a good position now. And the reason why I want to continue with the niche sports theme here and talk UFC and talk Khamzat is because he's got a fight finally upcoming April 9th. He's going to get the real contender that people have been asking for in Gilbert Burns, who has already fought Kamaru Usman for the welterweight title, is the number 2 contender in the division. And if there's any question about Khamzat's fighting ability, any question about him potentially being the pound for pound best fighter in the UFC, any question about him someday being the GOAT, someday being the best welterweight of all time, up there with GSP and up there with guys like Kamaru, this fight is going to go a long way to establishing himself up there. So I think this is a great time to kind of talk about not only the 2022 product that is coming out, but also the 2021 product that we were ripping last year as well. I want to start with the 2022 product though, because I think it is important to look at the checklist, and it seems like a similar situation with F1. I was worried that we were going to get into this situation where we saw how popular the product was, the demand that we saw, and all of a sudden next year we're going to see this massive overprinting of the product. And just based off of the checklist with some of the parallels that are in there, some of the refractors that they're offering, it doesn't seem like we're going to run into that situation. It seems like it's going to pretty closely mirror the product from last year. So I'm not too worried about running into a 2022 hobby box that is all of the sudden just full of stuff that is going to be have way too much supply. So I was DMing with a few people in the Establish a Collection Discord, which is a great resource. I feel like we've gotten a lot more eyeballs in there, a lot more good questions being asked as of late. But I'm starting to come around. As much as I was in on Khamzat being the rookie of this debut Panini Prizm product, I'm starting to come around in this 2022 box being better than last year's debut product.
Wow, that's shocking to me.
There are some names in this product that I think are going to do really well short term, but then also some guys that are going to do really well long term. Maybe not to the degree that we see Khamzat. Maybe we don't have a situation where it's like where we have this one guy who truly transcends the sport and is the chase of this sport for all time. But we've got some names in there that really stood out. And we're also going to get some first-year autos because we didn't get any autos from Khamzat last year. So we're going to get first-year Khamzat autos in this product as well, which I think, of course, are going to do well, right? And then second-year parallels are going to continue to do well, just like you talk about with Lewis and Max in F1. But some of these rookies, I'll just name a few. Sean Brady, Sean Strickland, Paddy Pimblett, which if you haven't heard of Paddy Pimblett by now, the guy that just fought last weekend at UFC London, sold out the O2 Arena, was I don't know. This is a situation that we get into with Khamzat. I remember when we talked about Khamzat, I said he could potentially be as good a fighter as Habib with the personality of McGregor, right? That was an absolute ceiling case for this guy, which is just like, is there any way that this is even possible? And he's, I mean, I don't want to overstep here, but I think he's kind of lived up to that hype, at least to this point. Paddy, I don't know if Paddy's kind of got the fighting chops in him. He's gonna beat up some cans in his UFC career, but I think if he gets any real competition, things might be a little bit hairy. But he's got the personality, man.
Oh, he's popular.
He's hilarious.
He's ridiculous. Yeah.
Extremely popular guy. And then we do have somebody who is actually a cousin of Habib's, Umar Nurmagomedov, who looks every bit the real deal that the name would imply, is a rookie in this class as well. Rafael Fiziev, another guy, and then Tom Aspinall is another guy that fought on last week's card who blew through his opponent in a first-round finish as well. So we've got, wrap it all together, we've got an awesome rookie class. One guy I forgot, Shavkat Rakhmonov, who, if you listen to anybody
crushing the name game. Sorry.
Yes, Shavkat Rakhmonov, which if you're paying attention to UFC, you'll know this, because if you're a Chimaev fan like I am, you're probably worried about this guy. He is starting to get that level of hype. He's 14-0 in his UFC career, fights in the same weight class as Khamzat, and is probably, you know, when we get through the Usmans and the Covingtons and the Gilbert Burnses of the world in this weight class, the older guys, is going to be one of those guys who is going to challenge him for belts, hopefully, in the years to come. So this is another rookie in this class as well. So when we wrap it all together with this 2022 product, obviously not a debut edition like we had last year, but we've got second-year products for a guy like Khamzat. We've got all the legendary guys, all the champion guys, and then we also throw in these autos for guys like Khamzat, first-year autographs in this awesome rookie class. I was talking to people in the Established Collection Discord that were getting boxes at their local hobby shops already for $850, $800, $900. I think that's an absolute smash at this time still. And then they're already trending $1,000, $1,100 online. So if you're able to pick up this stuff at the prices they're at now, I think it's a buy. You can sit and wait and see how things shake out for some of these prospects that we're looking at. But even if you're ripping, like if you rip a hobby box now and get any sort of Paddy Pimblett refractor parallel numbered card, that thing is going to do extremely, extremely well on eBay right now, following the hype from last fight. So very excited about the UFC product right now. Very excited about Khamzat's chances coming up. We're less than a couple of weeks away now at this point, but I think this is another great time, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago with F1. This is another great time for a niche sport like UFC.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. And I'm excited. I'm going to try to get my hands on at least one box, have some fun with it. You know, and I think this Paddy Pimblett rookie being in here is huge. Just being in the Twitterverse, and you know, I know those Barstool guys were all over gambling on him and loving him, and like that whole crew, like all the Barstool type of fans, I think are all over him, and that's just scratching the surface. He's loud, English, boisterous, and he looks ridiculous, which is what's so
that's so much part of it, right?
He's so much part of it. He's got like the blonde bowl cut or whatever's going on, and yeah, I mean. By the way, mean bowl cut as a kid, Cody. Yeah, I think, you know, and then I barely know any of the other names, but I trust you that it's a great class. And if this is the case, that it has actually a stronger overall rookie class, if not necessarily the ceiling of Khamzat, but just from a wider range, kind of like what we're going to get out of 2021 NBA Prizm. Like, I think that's going to be similar comparison. Like maybe Evan Mobley's a super duper star, maybe not, maybe Cade is, maybe not, but it goes 10 to 12 deep of true great prospects that could be all-stars. So it sounds like it's similar to that, which you know, that always drives the hobby. And as you mentioned, if we get new autographs that we've never had before, this is still a very new product. So really, really pumped. That sounds like an awesome product with, you know, continuing to have great cards, man. The card from last weekend with Paddy, I didn't get to catch any of it, but I heard was awesome. And, you know, I just know that UFC continues to churn out great fights and great cards. So the popularity is there, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's only going to grow. We have next week, not next week, April 9th is the Khamzat card, but also on that card, we have Alexander Volkanovski, who's probably the best featherweight of all time. Also, we get the rematch between bantamweights, Aljamain Sterling and Peter Yan, and then the big Khamzat fight with Gilbert Burns. He's like a minus 430 favorite, which if I'm being honest, even as a Khamzat fanboy, should not be a minus 430 favorite against the number 2 contender in the welterweight division. Are only 4 fights into his UFC career, but I'm just going to say this right now. Like I've got one card listed. It's a red Khamzat parallel numbered out of 275 on eBay for well above its current asking price, just in case somebody wants to offer me something absurd to take it off my hands. I'm willing to do that at this point.
Yep.
And I'm getting insane amounts of views, insane amount of watches, and insane amount of offers on that card. But if Hamzat runs through Gilbert Burns like the odds are expecting him to, those prices aren't going to come down. Those prices will not come down, because the next in line is going to be a fight with Kamaru Usman or somebody like Colby Covington in order to get that fight with Kamaru Usman. And once that happens, I mean, you're just talking absolutely absurd levels of prices for this guy. It's going to go up to Conor levels. It's going to go up to Khabib levels, and you're not going to be able to get your hands on it. So if you're waiting for whatever reason and you think he comes out victorious this upcoming card on UFC 273, now is the time to get your hands on it. And then shortly after, less than a month later, we've got probably an even better card with Charles Oliveira fighting Justin Gaethje. We get a women's fight at strawweight with Rose Namajunas and Carla Esparza, Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson. It all just goes to play into the popularity of the sport when we see these fights on Saturday night, just like we see with the F1 taking over Twitterverse on Saturday and Sunday mornings. These massive pay-per-view UFC cards are going to take over Twitterverse and take over social media on Saturday nights as well. So I think it just helps to grow the popularity of the sport when we have these massive cards. So I think that the next couple of months are going to be really big for the hobby.
Agreed there, man. Totally agreed there, and really excited, about F1, about Chrome, and then UFC, and then obviously we are just going to continue to get. We just got football contenders last week. That's a big one. We're going to continue to get football products from this past year, despite the fact that we're now, a couple months past the season. We're going to continue to get basketball products. We're still waiting on Prizm for both of those sports for this year. So, yeah, man, just a lot of good releases ahead. Glad to see that at least Topps, with Formula One knew what to do with the production side of things. Let's see what Panini does with UFC. Hopefully not crazy, but regardless, it seems like the hype will be there that these boxes should be in demand.
One last thing on the UFC stuff before we wrap up here today, just looking at the base checklist, the Prizm parallels that they have for this product. They have a green, a hyper, an ice, a pink ice, and a ruby wave before they get into their serial numbered cards. I do notice a few different parallels that they did not have, a few unnumbered, not serial numbered parallels that they have in this product for 2022 that they did not have for 2021. So that does indicate there might be some of these more less sought after, more overprinted parallels like the green, the hyper, the pink ice, the ruby wave, some of these cards that are more evident in your boxes if you're ripping, that aren't the serial number, reds out of 275 and purples out of 149 and blues out of 199. I would still, if you're focusing on getting into box breaks or ripping this stuff, would still focus on the serial number cards, because I think some of those, especially the lesser popular parallels, could be a little bit more overprinted in this product. But they do have some interesting stuff, I think, thrown into this set. They have a 2012 Prizm throwback, which I think is going to do really well with collectors, especially Prizm fans, that I think is going to do really well. And then, as I mentioned before, just the first year autos for a lot of these fighters that we didn't have in the debut product, I think are going to do really well. So if you pull a Hamzat auto, just know that is his first auto. He did not have autos in the 2021 product, and that is a phenomenal card. I expect those to do incredibly well.
Yeah, agreed there. And we'll see if there's, we'll follow up after the release. Let's see if any of these, maybe some of these new parallels are shorter printed than we realize. It's always a possibility. So, we'll wrap back around there. Wouldn't be surprised to see, Panini come out with a UFC choice product at some point, the same way we have Prizm choice for basketball. Wouldn't be surprised to see them do things like that and come out with some fun parallels that are more short printed. But yeah, man, you and I talked about, would we go long and have opportunity to talk about other topics such as NFL offseason that we've missed over the last 2 weeks. But here we are, almost 50 minutes in, because you and I, my friend, we have fun. We have fun over here, and we're excited to continue to have fun. This is episode 40, just scratching the surface, though.
I was thinking, is there anything that we missed? But I was more happy, and I guess it's not so much even niche anymore, but I was happy to kind of keep a niche in our little bubble. No NBA talk, no NFL talk, not even any MLB talk, as we're, now 2 or 3 weeks away from opening day on April 7th.
Oh, yeah.
for MLB. But we promised you guys before Gary went on his little vacay and before I decided to take a full-time gig at ETR that we would get into the MLB. Now that the MLB is back, we're still waiting for a few dominoes to fall with big name signings, trade stuff, free agency stuff. Spring training is underway. Things are going to start to get really hot and heavy in the MLB streets. So we plan on being back, fully diving into MLB, fully diving into what we still consider America's game at this point. We'll talk about Gary's Yankees love. If the Yankees can get over the hump in the 2022 season. We'll be back with all of that next week. Until then, we appreciate you guys for hanging out with us for some niche talk with F1, with UFC. On your way out, don't forget to subscribe, rate, review wherever you're listening. If you are listening on the podcast feed, hop over to YouTube, subscribe, click the notification bell over there, like the video, comment whatever content you would like to hear. We did get some good feedback in the Establish the Collection Discord about some 101 level stuff, which I think is important. I feel like we're at a point now in the hobby where we're getting a lot of new eyeballs in, and it is good to kind of rehash some of those topics. So hopefully over the next couple of weeks, Gary and I can get back to that starter pack series that we kicked off the show with and kind of talk some high level macro strategy in the card hobby. Anything else before we get out of here, Gary?
No, all great points. And yeah, we'll dive in with some baseball next week. Spotify does have ratings now, star ratings. So we could appreciate if you go on there, give us 5 stars. If you've already done it on Apple, please go over to Spotify. Help us out over there. We would greatly appreciate it. But yeah, we'll dive in with baseball. I'll catch up on football and basketball next week. Back to the more mainstream American sports. We had a lot of fun with this niche sport, and I want to congratulate Cody again on becoming a full-blown, a full-time employee in the fantasy sports industry. I know a lifelong dream for him, and we're really happy to have him. Not grinding his cock off for something that he didn't necessarily have a passion for. So very, very excited. Very excited.
All right, buddy. Let's everyone out there go take down Gary in the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix on DFS.
Not happening. Not happening.
Hopefully, maybe you guys can chop for first because it is a dupe heavy sport. Maybe you guys can all
that'll probably
first,
happen.
But check out DraftKings, hop in the F1 DFS streets, take down Gary in the GPP. Let us know how it goes. Show us your screenshots. Show us your winnings. Show us your hobby boxes. Show us your polls from F1, from UFC. Show us everything. We want to see it. Communicate with us. Let us know how things are going.
Yep, totally.
For all that, we will see you guys next week. For Gary, I'm Cody. We'll see you later.
Peace out.